welcome back to my channel, The Sarthak Show, where we discuss about tech, career, product, and life. And today we have a very special guest with us, Saiman. He's working as a staff technical program manager at Aurora, and he has a fair bit of experience as in the robotics industry, the AI industry and he has also worked at companies like Lyft, Tesla in those scenarios. So today we will learn about how you can move into this space as a robotics domain, and what are the different things that are required, what are the work that is expected, and also we have some bit of discussion about how you can move to US and get a green card very easily. So what was his journey like, and we will know all about in this video. Thank you so much, Simon, for tuning in for this podcast and taking out time for this, and love to know more about you.
It's a pleasure, Sarthak. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I would, since you have worked at a fair bit of companies and you have experience in this film, would you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I come originally from a coastal town in Karnataka, India. So I moved to the US basically for grad school in the beginning. Went through grad school, specialized in control systems, robotics, and sort of ventured into the industrial robot space, where there's robots that go into the manufacturing and the packaging industry, right? And did a fair bunch of work on that. And then this opportunity came up at Tesla a bunch of years ago. And I jumped at that opportunity, been like really rewarding in terms of like experience, what we could make happen, the impact, overall like impact in the world and things like that. That was the first time I sort of got into the autonomous vehicles, or like even automotive space in general. So yeah, my stint or my the years of my work at Tesla really helped shape me as a professional in the autonomous vehicle space, combined with my robotics background. And that sort of really helped, where in the other places I worked as well, where I, went to Lyft, was part of their self-driving group, one of the founding members of their self-driving group when they were starting their self-driving group. And then from there, I went to Neuro, where we built really interesting sort of delivery robots that are street legal and completely autonomous. And then since then, I've moved to Aurora, which we are actually developing long haul trucking, autonomous trucking products, as well as like ride hailing products.
Oh, I think a phenomenal journey in the robotics space, and then the rise is meteoric. So yeah, great to have you on this channel, and would love to go deep onto all of these things. But one of the things that pop into my head is something. How did you actually? So as a guy, I've always been fascinated from my childhood times with robots and everything. But what was your story? How did you move into robotics and AI domain? And like, what made you move into this domain?
As even from undergrad, I was interested in mainly how things are controlled. So even in robotics, there's a lot of things that you can do, right? Like there's basically opportunities for pretty much everyone in robotics, any field that is, like including pretty much any branch of engineering, any branch of business, or like basically all the branches have their own sort of ways in which they appear in robotics, so to speak. So I was particularly interested in how things are controlled, right? And that's what I went to grad school for, like looking at like different ways of controlling things, different systems, complex systems. It can be technological systems, it could be business systems, it could be social systems, right? But there are certain elements where you can sort of identify what kind of system you're working with, and then sort of derive what kind of elements control it, and then do the controls. And then I was taking a look at like pretty much all the possible impactful innovations that's happening in control systems, and I was trying to understand, okay, which area is very likely to affect the future of the way we do things in the world, right? And it seemed like, okay, so there's a natural progression where computers were sort of invented, and then computers became super strong in computational power and whatnot, and it gave like extreme capability to humans to actually do that. And then on top of that, there was the internet that came, right, which sat on top of the developments that happened in computation, and then that also gave rise to like this artificial intelligence space. So what's the logical extension of that? So we have like phenomenal software sort of innovation that helps us be better at things. The logical next step that would produce profound impact is what I saw in robotics, because if you can use all this computational power to manipulate things in the real world, like for example like a robotic arm or a vehicle, whatever it is that is physical, right, like physical consequences, then I thought that was just the logical next step to happen given all the innovations that are there. And that's why I decided, I got really fascinated with that space and decided to get started in places where places that were paying a high emphasis of using artificial intelligence, especially in robotic applications. And an autonomous vehicle is actually a robot, right? It's a very specific functional robot. And yeah, that's how my fascination with robotics began, and that's how I proceeded to come this far.
Yeah, again, I think very well put in the right place, like how these things progress and how you wanted to do something in something which is very future looking, which makes sense because we wanted to be attached with something which is very future looking, and how it can impact the society at large and how things function in a way. So something like autonomous driving is definitely one of the things that I'm always intrigued about, how things function in that, because there are like millions of calculations that has to take place to just take one decision to increase the speed or maybe apply a brake or maybe take a right turn or something like that. So how that computational work, and definitely that is the next logical step, because once you have given the computer like the brain part of it, now you want to give them arms and muscles and to take the necessary actions, because they are already capable of thinking what action to be taken. Now it's just to provide them the necessary things to take that action as well. So yeah, fairly the logical step in how you have progressed. But since you mentioned that you have worked in companies like Tesla, Lyft on the robotics and autonomous driving part of it, so how was working at companies like that felt like? What were the products, something, or some of the learnings that you were able to drive from that part?
Yeah, so I still, it's been a few years since like I left Tesla and moved on to other companies to work at, but I still reference or cite the work that I did at Tesla as one of the strongest pillars of my careers. And I think I often go through why that's the case, right? And I think the largest contributor there is the fact that I started at Tesla very earlier on in my career. Now, there are obviously cultural things out there about Tesla that, hey, it's a super rigorous, intensive culture. They make you work a lot and stuff like that, which is not untrue, right? Like all of that is largely true, and I believe all of that is what it takes to disrupt a I don't know 200-year industry in a way that is profound and impactful to the future of the world, right? So I think it is that kind of work ethic is warranted. Now, how it really helped me is in the very first few years of my career when I started off. I didn't start my career at Tesla, but then I was like earlier on in my career when I worked at Tesla, where I got this opportunity to like really push myself, right? And I was not pre-biased to a different norm other than that. So in my mind, the way to work is by pushing yourself infinitely, right? And that really helped me get a kind of professional growth that was unparalleled, that I probably could not get maybe in even 5 or 6 years at most other places, just because there's a relatively relaxed way of working in most companies out there, except a few, and the work culture at Tesla really played a huge role in sort of accelerating my career growth in the early years, which I did not realize honestly until I moved on from Tesla to other companies and things like that, where I started mixing with people who were hired from other companies, right, which are relatively relaxed. And that's where I realized, oh boy, like I learn a lot at Tesla. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is so true, and I can definitely relate to it. While working in something which has a different kind of a rigor, and you are working intensively towards a common goal, then the learnings are also exponential in that way, because at the same day you are doing much you would want to do something which gives you that professional growth and that learning, uh, and how to have that in so much less time is something where you want to work more and that have that different kind of a rigor altogether, because although all the peers are working collaboratively and the things are working extensively, but that I would say experience also gives you a lot of learning in multiple ways. But as you mentioned that you joined Tesla at very early on at your career path, and that led to this phenomenal journey that you had today and what you are today at that place. So if somebody who is looking to apply at similar company, let's say Tesla or maybe other company, what is the way that you recommend to apply at, like how early on that they can do that?
I think they should do it as early as they possibly can, right? And this can be undergrad, this can be I don't know if it is possible to apply, possible to work before that in these companies, but as early as you possibly can is my answer there. I think Tesla has, like, to my knowledge, like revamped their hiring processes to not require any degree at all, but require evidence of exceptional ability, which I think is a really smart move, because that's the way to go. You're not education, I think, has become a sort of distant marker of potential success. It is in some areas, but in most areas it has become like far removed from the markers of success of that professional. So I think they are biased towards hiring people with extraordinary or exceptional evidence of exceptional ability. So what that means is, okay, how can you prepare yourself to produce such evidence of exceptional ability? Well, if you're in school, try to engage in as many projects as you possibly can. This is one of the things that I did since my early days in undergrad. Is I really used to get bored in classes, to be honest. There were very few classes that I found interesting and worthy to be seated in. I mean, towards the end of my undergrad, I literally just didn't attend classes. I was like if I was in the college campus, I was mostly in the labs, trying to do things, break a few things, that kind of thing. So it really helped me understand how things really work. I would say, I would actually go to this extent to say, if you are in the lab, if you're doing something, and you practically do, let's say, 40% or 30% of what they would otherwise teach in the class in the same amount of time, you are still much in a much better position than sitting in the class and just learning 100% of the things and not necessarily knowing how to apply it and the consequences of applying it. So I found that as a reasonable trade-off, where, okay, even if I learned 30% or like 70% less effectively than what I learned inside a classroom, the lab provided me with an environment where I could relate to that thing in a much deeper manner, which was of much greater consequence in the long run.
Right. Yeah, that is again so true, and I can totally abide by that, because what I have felt is the difference that you apply those knowledge in practical sense, and that is the ability that market or industry needs right now. All the theoretical applications or maybe classrooms are good enough to give you some brief insights about it, but when you practically apply, then the variables come into the picture, the reality comes into the picture, and that gives you a different kind of learning altogether. in the classroom, it's more about the ideal cases and ideal scenarios, right? But while working in any of the stream, it's not specific to engineering or business or any other thing. But whenever you work or apply those logics into the real market, the things change. The parameters come into the picture and they shape the vision, or they shape an ability to think about those changing parameters or variables, how to control them, how to mitigate them to reach to an correct goal. And I definitely recommend anyone, like, this is a human nature to have that bias, that coming from that background or that degree or that college is going to give you much more advances, or is a proof of certification. I don't deny that fact, but I also agree that degree is not the only true one fact, because it cannot be the single source of truth for everything, that you have the degree then you are only capable of that. I have seen phenomenal journeys out there, amazing people with I would say wonderful skills in every domain, without the college degrees or certifications or something of that domain. And personally, when I am in this domain, I don't have a business degree with me, and I have felt here and there more consequences about this, like not have that right set of certifications or something like that. But still, I am able to break into this product management part and working in the direction. So I think more learning on the practical part helped me on this path, and that is something that is truly recommended for everyone to get early on, as you mentioned, like apply as early as possible. And how they can achieve those things, or how can they have those things that are very exceptional by nature, and how these skills are very helpful, because at the end of the day, skills matter more than I feel so with certifications and degrees and all whatnot. Yeah, and for the audience who are listening in, I would like to mention that if you want to move into the technical space, the engineering space with some learnings, and so Newton School has started a full stack web development course where you can learn from scratch everything about full stack development, how this helps, and they have good number of projects that will help you work on them in the live way. What are you learning on the full stack development part? And also the best part of this course is there is no there's like zero upfront fee, so you don't have to pay anything before you get an offer letter from the companies. So that is the special part. So you can check out the link in the description box below and know more about this course. They have starting the batch this month only, so yeah, check that out. And Simon, yeah, coming back to the story, like I know you have left companies a couple of years ago, but in general, in this robotic space, how is the interview process like? Maybe what is like typical number of rounds or typical questions that are asked? What are the things that the interviewer gauge on the person that they are eligible, or what are the skills that they generally look for?
So the robotics space is fairly new, right? So it is hard to predict that a question that was predominantly asked in the interview, probably let's say like 3-4 years ago, is still the question that's being asked today, right? It's so rapidly evolving. But here's like a general ballpark, right? Like let's say you're working, you're applying to, it depends on what role you're applying to, obviously. Like let's say you're applying to a technical role, you'll have to have a general understanding of how vehicles operate, right? Like if you want to basically convert an automobile into like an autonomous vehicle, then you need to understand what is it that makes a car drive today as is, right? And I'm not talking about like a deep rooted like combustion engine dissection kind of thing. That's not necessary, but at least from a general control standpoint of like how do you model the controls and things, like if you're a controls engineer trying to get into like vehicle controls kind of thing, that is important, because ultimately that's the thing that you are controlling, right? Now if you are looking for like more of like a perception engineering role, then you need to know about like different kinds of sensors, and why certain sensors, or what kind of importance a few what's different about different kinds of sensors that we need, most of them, right? And then there are companies that have a heavy bias towards not using some sensors. Like, for example, Tesla, they are notorious about not wanting to use a LiDAR. And until recently, or very recently, they announced that they are not even going to rely a lot on the radar systems that they have. So it's purely vision, right? So in that case, there is going to be a heavy bias on the part of computer vision and understanding the exacts of like how, I mean, this is a evolving field, but then like as of today, how computer vision is done, like what are the advances. And as far as like the implementation is concerned, a lot of people ask me, what kind of language should I be proficient in, things like that. Different companies use like variably different languages. There's no sort of standard language set as of now because the field is like so rapidly evolving. But I've seen people use C++ a lot, Python a lot as well. But the one thing I usually tell people is don't like look at the language as just a tool, right? Like a tool of expression. Yeah, each tool has its own, like, you know, some tools are take longer to compile, some are like you know, like they don't need to be compiled, things like that. But that's secondary, right? Like in general, you need to know at an algorithmic level what are the advances and how things work. And the grassroots level implementation when it comes to like language, that is something that you can mostly figure out as you go.
Right, definitely. Yeah. This is something I feel that people can learn on the way when they enter the company and the space. Generally, that has been the case because people can come from very different, varied backgrounds. But the learnings that they bring from background are important, while some of things or aspects can be learned on the go. Yeah.